From our studios in New York, here again is Jane Pauley.
This is a story long forgotten except by those who lived it. And that they did live is the miracle. They were the youngest survivors of the Holocaust, just children. How they defied the odds is a story that hasn't been told for generations. But tonight you'll meet the woman who was known as the Angel of Belsen. The pastoral countryside in the heart of Germany gives no clue to the horrors that happened here 50 years ago. This was Bergen-Belsen, the Nazi concentration camp, where 30,000 Jews died. Among them, 14-year-old Anne Frank. But a miracle also happened here. 52 children who were comforted by this old lullaby did not die and lived to tell one of the most remarkable stories of love and survival of the war. The story begins here in the old Jewish quarter of Amsterdam. In 1943, deportation orders came for the families of 420 Jewish diamond workers who lived here. Hitler's SS had already begun rounding up Dutch Jews in 1941. In all, 105,000 were deported, most headed for German death camps. For the families of the diamond workers, the first stop on their terrible journey was Westerbork detention camp. In early 1944, they were moved again, including the Werkendam children, Jack, Max, and Hetty, the oldest at 14.
At the time when we arrived, it was a very beautiful, very quiet camp.
But that quickly changed. It was the infamous Bergen-Belsen. One December day, 10 months later, the fathers were taken away. The next day, the mothers.
All the children were crying when the mothers didn't come back.
Max was then 13.
We were in a state of helplessness. We didn't know what was happening to us.
The terrified children were loaded on trucks, driven to another part of the camp, and left, apparently, to die.
I was numb. I didn't know what was happening.
Jerry Lockmacher was only 10.
I'd lost my parents, and now they'd taken my aunt and uncle away who had taken the place of my parents. And I really didn't know where I was.
I think it was about the scariest moment of my life.
At 14, Jack Rodri was one of the older children.
We were totally left by ourselves, and the smaller babies were crying.
The cries was coming closer, closer.
Luba Trzenskaya was a 24-year-old Polish Jew, a nurse, who after 2 ghastly years at the notorious death camp Auschwitz, had just been moved to Bergen-Belsen to work in the hospital. She heard the children's cries. Were they real, she wondered, or only haunting echoes of terrible memories?
I came to Auschwitz with a child from 3.5 years, a little boy. And by miracle, I was saved. And he went to the gas chambers with my mother-in-law. Loim was pulling out the sand, Mama, screaming, Mama. 3.5 years, a child is already, you know. Here I come to Belsen, I sleep over one night. The next night I heard children crying.
She followed the sounds and found 54 children, terrified and alone. Though they could have been shot for it, Luba and 2 other women prisoners hid the crying Dutch children in their own barracks.
I wasn't afraid. Why not? My life was nothing. Life was so cheap. My child was taken, my husband was taken. I was sent, and I've seen the thousands dead ones laying. When I've seen these children, I wanted, maybe it will give me a chance to help him, to save him. In my life, I had a meaning. I had a meaning to live for something.
Max didn't know Luba or the other women. They didn't speak Dutch, and he was scared.
We were put in a room, in a barrack, and we sat on the floor. It was dark, there was no light. And there were some people floating around. They had no hair. And they were very skinny, they looked like ghosts.
Overnight, we keep the little children, we washed them and tried. The cries was unbearable.
The next day, risking her life again, Luba approached one of the SS officers to ask for his help.
I stopped, and which I'm not supposed to do it, and I touched him. He smacked me in my face. And in German, I said, "Lassen Sie mir stehen mit diesen Kindern. Let me have the children." He says, "You're a nurse. What do you need that Judenkinder, they're the Jews?" I said, "You must be, in German, a grandfather. And you understand that I was a mother. My child was taken away, and I was left. So I like to help these children out." And then 2 days later, he called me, and he says, yes.
Nobody knows why he said yes. But as months went by, Luba risked her life for her kids over and over again. She even dared to approach the camp commandant, Joseph Kramer, known as the Beast of Bergen-Belsen.
I said, "I need some white bread for the children. If you cannot give me, they will die out. They have diarrhea."
Remarkably, Luba succeeded again. Kramer gave her a paper entitling her to 2 loaves of bread. Luba managed to get 10.
I took the children, the older one with me, and they put in jackets in there, and in the sleeves, we put our bread in, and their bread. So
you smuggled the bread in there.
Smuggled the bread. So this was helping them, sure. Any little food was helping.
The baker was in on it with you.
Right.
And Luba often begged for food in the camp's kitchens.
She used to say to the German, his name was Chris, and he said, "Come on, give me some food for this little girl," she would say. And then Chris looked me up and down and he said, "Yeah, get some sausages for the children." And he gave us big salamis.
Well, she always came up with the food. When one of us was sick, she managed many times to get a doctor to see us or to get the medicine that we needed.
During the day, Luba kept the children inside the barrack away from the SS guards. She ordered them to keep their voices low. What were the night sounds like? Were children quiet at night?
Yes, the children were quiet. The strange thing about it is, small as they were, they realized the danger we were in.
Even the little ones?
Even the little ones. They knew that they had to obey. If they were told they had to go to sleep, they slept.
Little children have nightmares.
As far as I recall, our little children didn't cry, not at night. Luba gave us all a feeling of safety. Not only that she gave us the food, but we felt safe with her. She was like a mother.
But it was not so easy to converse with her because we only spoke Dutch and, of course, a little bit of German that we had picked up.
It didn't matter what she said. It mattered the way she looked at you. The way she looked at you and gave you the power to survive.
But survival was no easy matter at Belsen. In February and March 1945, more than 40% of the inmates died of disease or starvation. The children could see the corpses piled up outside their barrack.
We were protected by Luba, but we could see what was happening and how people were trying to scrounge some food anywhere. I've actually myself seen, during the evening, that prisoners used to creep up towards the corpses and cut off some flesh to eat.
Despite the horrors outside the barrack, the children secretly planned a birthday party for Luba. They bartered with 2 adult prisoners for a gift, a silk scarf and a poem. In return, each child gave up their main ration of the day, a slice of bread.
And everyone one had a little leaf, one had a little flower, one made of a piece of paper something, or one made a piece of paper if he had a pencil to put something on. And there was a package, a beautiful package in a heart shape. My God, I'll never forget that. And then Hetty was standing up and saying that poem to me.
Einmal hadden die Kinder keine Schuhe. Die organisiert Schwester Luba in nun. And so, in the end, we tell her how much we love her and that she is looking after us. Without her, we can't be alive.
And I was sitting and crying and saying, "God, you paid me for all my work. I was paid. I was paid. This was worth it. You couldn't buy it for millions."
On April 15, 1945, Bergen-Belsen was liberated by the British.
Never in my life have I seen such damnable ghastliness. This morning we buried over 5,000 bodies. We don't know who they are.
Of the 105,000 Dutch Jews deported, 100,000 died. But of Luba's 54 children, 52 survived.
Was there another barrack anywhere where a ratio of 52 out of 54 survived that experience?
No, not one. If there would be 52 in another barrack, maybe 5 would survive, but not 52.
2 months after liberation, Luba accompanied the children back home to Holland, where they were reunited with surviving relatives. Luba, however, had no family left. After the war, she cared for a group of Polish orphans for 2 years.
Now everybody polka! Luba, take your husband for polka!
In 1947, she married Sol Friedrich, also a Holocaust survivor, and they came to America and made new memories. On this day, Luba celebrated Sol's 80th birthday, not only with their children and 4 grandchildren, but also with the children now grown, whose lives she had saved, and whose little souls she once comforted with a Jewish lullaby.
One thing in my mind I had, my child was taken from me away, and their mothers was taken away. There was a purpose to leave me alive, to help them survive.
Those she saved call her the Angel of Belsen.
Wie voll Tränen sind in die Heißes, wird ihr später verstehen.
Luba tells us that some of the children are arranging a reunion to be held in Amsterdam this April. It would be the first time many have seen one another since the war.